You're already rolling, right?
If I sneeze, can you edit this?
She doesn't edit.
Don't edit?
That's all she does.
All right, so this is live, right?
It's streaming it,
Streaming
actually.
Right up there. Yep.
Yeah.
Live stream. All right. You want to do an intro?
I thought you do the intro.
You want me to do the intro?
Yeah, you always do the intros.
Sing a little jingle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are with Supercar Steve.
Yeah. So, so is AKA Supercar Steve, or do you like to you tell us?
And you keep forgetting the N.
Did they? I didn't even notice.
See.
I'm so used to being called Steve that I'm numb to it now. My wife notices it more than I do. Okay, so Supercar Steven, it's a great question. So I'm not a massive fan of social media, but I'm 30, I'm a millennial, but it is essential, unfortunately, for any kind of networking. Staying connected to people you know, staying connected to people you don't know, and just are interested in exploring your hobbies, business, and everything. There's a lot of advantages to social media, and it's pretty necessary, I think, for most people, depending on what their goals are in life.
Right.
And so I actually started, my main passion and hobby is cars. That's the second thing that motivates me, aside from my family being the first in life, for working hard.
Yeah.
And anyway, backtracking to how did I come up with Supercar Steven? So I started my Instagram in 2017.
Dang.
And so yeah, it's been a little bit. And initially it was just, I had like a Instagram before that, but it was inactive. So I started a whole new one, and it was titled McLaren and Me. And so initially I got into McLaren back in 2014. That's kind of like that's my favorite brand.
Right.
McLaren.
So you're a McLaren guy.
I'm a McLaren guy. And so McLaren was still relatively new. They started making cars back again, McLaren Automotive, in 2012 with the MP4 12C.
Yep.
And I had a 2014 12C Spider. And that kind of kicked off my love and passion for the brand, because I got on kind of on the ground floor. I know they made the F1 back in the 90s. That was a different company, different time period. So you can kind of look at this as a completely new chapter, new company.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that they had the 12C, and still coming out and starting a brand like that is very difficult. And like all of a sudden, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to come out here and try to compete with Ferrari and Lamborghini, who has had decades of history.
Right.
So anyway, I made that account because McLaren, I was going out to the McLaren events and kind of asking like, hey, what are you looking for customers? And what, how could I be a good customer to you guys? And I want to help grow with the brand, because I really am passionate about the brand from what the brand has offered to me, which we could probably delve later on in this conversation. But they said that one thing that they are really trying to grow is their social media, for reasons I said earlier. And so I decided to start McLaren and Me to try and be a little bit of an ambassador for the brand in a way. They did like when people were posting their cars, and sharing it and everything, and they did say they did pay attention to that stuff. So that was kind of why I did it, and kind of started my car journey on social media through that channel.
So you had a passion for the brand. Were you an owner yet?
I was an owner and a passion. I was initially an owner, and then the passion came from being an owner.
Gotcha.
And so that's 2017 McLaren and Me. 2018, 2019 rolls around, and I started getting into some other brands. Bought my first Lamborghini. I had my G-Wagon at the time, Raptor stuff. And even though I love McLaren, at the end of the day, I'm not just a McLaren enthusiast, I'm a car enthusiast. And so I started adding other cars, and then I didn't want it just feel like my account was narrowed down just to McLaren. So I wanted to make it a little more broad.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, I have a pretty diverse collection behind me.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, some of them are still at home. This is not everything, but I'm a big Porsche guy. I like Lamborghini.
All for different reasons.
All for different reasons. And
even the Miata.
Exactly. And so that's why I just kind of, alliterations, with two S's, Supercar Steven, just kind of like, I just typed it in and it said it was available.
You're like, damn, got it.
And I was like, yeah, that's me. It just clicked. And so I changed my name to Supercar Steven, and now the rest is kind of history. Now that's kind of what my branding has been like on social media.
So I want to dive into a few things because we can unpack quite a bit on that.
Absolutely.
The McLaren, when you get into three major supercars, the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, and the McLarens, they're all three different kinds of owners. Your Ferrari guys,
Yes.
your Lamborghini guys, and your McLaren guys.
Mm.
So why did you choose the McLaren as your first supercar over the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris?
Going back to, as I said, at the core, I'm an enthusiast.
Yeah.
A car enthusiast. And so obviously I knew about the other brands growing up. I've always had a little more of an affinity towards Lamborghini than Ferrari, but more than anything growing up, Porsche was actually my number one brand, because from an enthusiast standpoint, Porsche has a lot of cars they have a lot of products that really entice a lot of enthusiasts. And so why McLaren? So I'll go back to, I guess I can start from how I initially got into the brand and got my first car. This was back in 2014, end of 2014. And I was at a car show. I had an F-250 at the time I took the car show. And this was in Round Rock.
Not your Ford F-250.
It was a Ford F-250. I don't have that car anymore.
But you got pictures, right?
Yes, I have pictures.
Sweet. So we can insert pictures here. Good.
This was back in 2014. Yeah, I loved that. It was brand new. I was really proud of it. Had a 6-inch lift kit on it.
Heck yeah,
some chrome rims and everything. Yeah, it was a platinum, so I decked it all out in some chrome and stuff. That was popular back then. But went to this car show. I was at the Harley Davidson in Round Rock here. My father was a good friend with the owner at the time, and he's like, "Yeah, just come out and check it out." And there was rumors that a McLaren was coming to the car show.
Mm.
And while I had known, a lot of cars before then, I was looking more I was more like looking at muscle cars and stuff at the time. Just, I liked American stuff at the time. And but when they said a McLaren was coming, I really didn't know much about it. But I was really excited because it was something new I really have not explored. And so the car show comes, show up, kind of waiting around, looking around. There's your normal Corvettes.
Yep,
Mustangs.
the bad guys are always
They are always there in full force. I mean, they make sure if there's a section. Anyway, Corvette guys. Yeah, I actually ended up had a Corvette at the time. But so I can't hate too much.
You're a bad guy.
So
you got the New Balances and the long socks.
Yeah, right. So the McLaren shows up, parks, and instantly everyone crowds around it. Because there was a 12C then. That was a new model for McLaren. So that was the latest and greatest McLaren had to offer.
Right.
Doors went up, they're dihedral doors. The owner opened the doors up like that. You're walking around and you're like, this thing is just wild looking. We've seen the Lamborghinis, we've seen the Ferraris, but what is this? And so I really didn't know much about the car. And at that time, I was a couple weeks out from ordering a new 911 Turbo S. And so I went up to the owner, introduced myself. His name, I don't think he'll mind if I mention his name, Josh Snowhorn. A lot of people know him in the area. Big McLaren guy. Even, I'd say arguably even bigger than me. And I introduced myself, told him I made the mistake of mentioning I was looking at a Porsche at the time. And he's like, all right. He was polite to everyone else in that circle.
He's like, excuse me, sir, what did you say?
Zeroed in on me and he's
You come
like,
here.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He spent 45 minutes walking me around his car, sitting me in the car and telling me why I need to buy this McLaren 12C over a Porsche 911 Turbo S. Long story short, that night I was looking at colors.
Oh, damn.
Different colors. 3 weeks later, I had flown out to Scottsdale with my wife, Lexi, and to take delivery of my new McLaren 12C Spider.
Jeez.
And that's where you can argue went uphill, downhill, whatever. I can make a case for both.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. I had a brand new 12C Spider.
So how was the delivery process? Did you buy from a dealer? Did you buy from a secondhand?
So I wanted initially, my favorite color has always been orange. And McLaren has this orange paint called Volcano Orange.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still my favorite paint today. And that they had a lot of pictures online of that car. They were really proud of that color. And that's the color I really wanted. But I was like, this is, I don't know if I want to be flashy and pull up with these doors going up and everything.
You're in a McLaren, bro.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know how you
so
not.
initially I was
Let me
trying
pull up and be really stealthy. I'm on a
So
McLaren.
I wasn't buying I was buying the car for me, but I was still kind of self-conscious about my image and everything. I wanted to make sure I didn't come across a certain way or fit into a certain stereotype. Now I don't care.
Yeah,
but then at the time I was very impressionable. I did care. I used to care what people thought about me. And so, not anymore. But anyway, I was like, I'll just get a white one because it's really understated. And my wife was at the time, I was like, no, if you're going to do this and spend this much money on a car.
So you're what? So Lexi.
It was Lexi. It was her. She was like, you know what? Go get the color you want. Get the car you want. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And so I was like, you know what? You're right. And so I got online, found it at McLaren Scottsdale. They had a new car, new 12C 2014 12C Spider convertible that it was a demo car for them to take out the car show. So it was new, but it had like 750 miles on it, so they discounted it a good bit. Because I was initially looking at used, because the used prices were a lot more appealing. And but said they had a really good deal on this new car. It was exactly what I wanted. Had volcano orange, had the interior carbon pack, had and carbon ceramic brakes, which were a unique option on the 12C at the time. Only 20% of 12Cs were optioned with carbon ceramic brakes.
Yeah.
That was an expensive option, and so most people didn't option it. But I really liked. I mean, I had read about how advanced carbon ceramic brakes are, what the difference they make on a track. You don't get any don't get any brake dust. They were very expensive to replace, but knock on, there's no wood by me. But I've never had to replace carbon ceramics. But they have good longevity and everything. I just prefer those brakes as a whole. Yeah. And so it had that. It checked every list. It was a little bit higher budget than I wanted to be, but I made it happen. And so a few weeks later, I did the deal remotely over the phone and everything. A few weeks later, we flew out to Scottsdale and went to the McLaren dealership. And mind you, this is the 3 weeks after I saw the first McLaren. And so this is pretty much walking to the McLaren dealership. They're there.
First time you've ever been in a McLaren
First time I was ever been in a McLaren dealership, because that was the first time I've ever seen a McLaren 3 weeks before. So walking in, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, the 650S had just launched. And so they're phasing out of the 12C into the 650S. So we're like, there's 650 there, 12C there. And I'm like, wow, now here's like 10 of them in front of me. And they took me out back to where my car was. And I just remember that feeling that I've never been able to replicate, even with the P1 or any other car, walking up to my first supercar and being like, this is mine. And just like opening the door, sitting inside of it. And just, it's different whenever it's your car.
Yeah, dude.
You're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just sitting there admiring all the stitching, the carbon fiber details. And, now it's things frankly, I've become so numb to, because I'm around supercars all the time. It's things I just don't sit there and look at, this far away at the stitching and, all the little details and what makes these cars so, handmade and special and everything. But that's what I was really in awe of, because, I've been in a Corvette before or Ford products, and I'm just used to plastic everywhere and then gaps like this big, So this was different. And so just getting in, it was just a different level of quality. And that was the first thing that hit me. And then the sales guy who I'd been working with over the phone, he was awesome. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was really great to work with. And he got in the driver's seat and was like, because I've not been in one before driving, I'd only sat in one previously. Sure. And he's like, I'm going to take you for a drive first, and then we're going to swap.
Okay.
And so we're pulling out of the service bay.
They should actually make that a rule for a lot of different cars.
Probably.
Because if not, our TikTok feeds would look a lot different.
Oh, I'm sure.
The Mustang and the Hellcat.
At least at the American dealerships, exactly. And for the sake, yeah. But he's like, look, I wanted to kind of show you what the car can do. And that way, you can kind of see where you can build up to with your skill level,
Right.
So I remember him pulling around the street. There was like my main road out in front of the dealership, and cars passed. And he just sat there at the stop sign for a few seconds. And I'm just like, he has room to go. Pulls out slowly and then steps on it. And all of a sudden, at that time, that car was 616 horsepower. Weighs about 3,200 pounds, and it's the 12C is still, even today by today's standards, a very fast car. But it felt like warp speed. I've never been in anything like it. I've been in Corvettes, Challengers, stuff like that, but nothing back in 2014 felt like this car that I'd been in. When the turbos kicked on, everything, it felt like it was just in a different dimension. And
Yep.
he merged onto the highway, weaving in between traffic. I am white knuckled into my seat like this.
Yes.
And after about 15 minutes of that, he pulled over into a parking lot and he's like, all right, now we're going to swap. And by this point, I am like drenched in sweat. My hands are clammy.
Yeah.
I'm like white knuckled. And I ease into that driver's seat and gingerly get in it.
Waiting for the cops to show
Yeah,
up.
no, exactly.
You're like,
I'm like,
Jesus, man. Like,
honestly, it wasn't even something on my mind. I was just so like, you know, in a different realm at the time. And so I remember getting back on the frontage road, and there was a long frontage road, no one in front of me, and I'm just kind of slowly speeding up, and he's like, step on it. And so I stepped on it and it took off. But you know, he got the tires nice warmed up and everything. One thing about McLarens is unless you try to make them, they don't get out from underneath you. And it took off, and I felt perfectly in control of it. The McLarens feel like an extension of your body, and I was like, wow, like slow down. And then I started having a little more fun on the highway, and my confidence after seeing what he had done started quickly building up once I was, you know, actually behind the wheel myself, and felt just how amazing of a driver's car that these cars could be. And we got back, and you know, I thanked him and really appreciated kind of showing me what the car can do. And as it made my first drive and my subsequent drives a lot more confident.
Right. So here's something that I've noticed about just, I mean, even when, especially cars like the McLaren line, is when you get into those cars, it almost, the cars are built way over your confidence level, obviously, as a first time driver. But even as a driver that is a non-professional, that car is even still quite intimidating, and it's probably more capable of what you're capable of.
100%.
Which is the scariest part of those cars.
You're completely right. Like even today, I've done a lot of high performance driver education, track days. I've had some great coaching. So I consider myself a decent driver, but still I can't push. I can confidently say, you know, as decent driver as I am, I'm going to humble myself and say I can't push any of my supercars to the limit that they can be driven at.
Yeah.
It is just, you know, you know, I don't know if I'll get there one day. Maybe I will, but I mean, I've been in my own cars with better drivers than me, like, you know, coaches and stuff. And I'm like, I have 10,000 miles on this car. I can drive this car to 95%. And then they just sit there and humble me really quickly.
Yeah.
So it's just a testament to just how good the cars are, especially in the right hands. And, but I mean, very confidence inspiring. Most of my supercars I've owned, especially the McLarens in particular, anyone could get in them. My grandma got in my 12C, and she drove a Camry at the time, and she drove it, and she was 75 at the time.
Yeah.
And
I think all kinds of people can have them. Hillary and Greg, they have one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the 720.
Okay. 720S.
Yeah, beautiful car.
Yeah.
But just, you know, it's a machine, dude.
It is.
Like it's hardcore.
Yeah. I think, you know, some people think that the McLarens are so fast, especially the 7 Series platform. It's kind of, I mean, the cars are really well made. They, as I said, you have to almost try to get them to come out with that under you, from under you, but it's still, you still have to be careful because you're going to be at 150, 160, 170 miles an hour so fast that mistakes can happen as good as the cars can be. You know, you're still human error. A deer runs out in front of you, you know.
Oh, geez, don't say that.
You know, it happens.
Don't say the D word.
We have not hit one, but we've had a couple close calls even in our McLaren.
There's certain times where we don't drive our cars around here, man. So y'all don't have that. It's not a big issue up there, but here there's certain, like between November and probably into December, like driving after a certain time on certain roads, you're just asking to get hit like by a deer.
Yep, exactly. I mean, we were driving back. My wife and I went out to Bastrop. They have a good sushi place out there at Lost Pines. I took the P1 out there for Valentine's Day. We celebrated last night. And on the way home on the toll road, we weren't speeding or anything. She was driving back, and sure enough, deer run right across the road in front of us, 15 yards. And we're like, that's a humbling experience. Like, you know, just seeing that happen.
For real.
So based on the collection that you have and your story you just told, you're more in tune with cars that give you a driver experience
Yes,
than the flash appeal?
absolutely.
Because you have Porsches, McLarens, Mazdas,
Yes.
from a Miata to an FD, which those are all like track-inspired cars. And that's why I favor more McLaren than anything,
Sure.
is because they're put together with track-oriented, and they just fit and feel different than the Lamborghinis, than the Ferraris.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. I guess going back, I guess went on a long tangent with a big
Mhm.
story, but going back to original question of
That's
you know,
okay.
why
We'll edit
McLaren.
all that shit out.
Yeah, you can just edit the whole. Yeah, you're right. Just get rid of the whole story. So back to the original question. So McLaren, I think the part of the appeal for me when I first got into it, I quickly learned I started attending events and everything, that early on when the brand was pretty new and still is, it was pretty off the radar. If you're like a typical cardiologist who makes $400 grand a year, but you don't love cars, but you got a little bit extra budget, but you want a nice car, you're going to go buy your wife the white Range Rover,
Mhm.
and then you're going to go buy yourself a red Ferrari. If you don't like the Ferrari, you go get yourself a Lamborghini, and that's all like
Right.
McLaren isn't even really an option, unless you know cars, and you have to be a bit more of an enthusiast especially early on with the 12Cs, 650s and stuff, to actually look outside of that realm, do your research, and then see McLaren's an option.
Yeah.
So as a whole, I've attended events. I do a lot of car events, with all kinds of brands. And as a whole, I have found from my personal experiences, McLaren to be the most enthusiast-oriented brand.
So enthusiast, like look, I'm part of just about, I don't know how many groups now. And, I like the support in some groups. So do you feel like the enthusiasts support each other, as a whole?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I have met a lot of people through, as I said, I've attended a lot of McLaren events over the past decade, made a lot of good friends through the brand. And I feel like instead of it being a measuring contest, I should say.
Exactly, dude. I was like, why can't we just help people?
It's not like that. I've not noticed that in McLaren. That being said, in every single brand, whether it's a Miata brand or anything, you're going to have people there that are kind of the low point of the brand. But as a whole,
Right.
The McLaren brand in particular has been they are enthusiasts to the car. A lot of them coming from Porsche.
Really?
Yes, a lot of them have owned Porsches or other.
Just to have a different experience, you think?
Just have a different experience.
Are they in like Porsche's Cup cars, like the GTs, or?
Yeah, a lot of GT owners and everything. They come from all different kinds of brands, but I met a lot of Porsche owners who have come into McLaren just because Porsche can be considered, a big enthusiast brand too.
Sure. I'm a fan.
I've met people come from Lamborghini and Ferrari and everything into the brand too. But if you go out to I do the McLaren Pebble Beach rally every year, and that is a McLaren corporate event they put on.
Sure.
That is a rally. If it's a 1 week rally for McLaren owners, it's limited to 25 cars, and we've done that the past 5 years. And generally, it's been, I'd say, 75-80% of the same people put them in every year. But that being said, you have people of all walks of life, all different backgrounds, and all different types of cars that are coming on the rally. And these people, some people there have every single McLaren hypercar, have other brands, and their collection's immense, multi-million dollars. And then you have another guy,
the first one
who has a used 12C, that's 130 grand. That's his only car, only McLaren he has. That's the only thing, they only have one, or, you have this wide range of, whereas, but it doesn't matter what you have if we have the same passion for the car. So, you can have the guy with a $140,000 used McLaren talking to the guy with a $10 million McLaren collection. And as long as they,
speaking the same
they're
language.
speaking the same language, and it's not like there's this pretentiousness because, you're down here and I'm up here, like I have seen in some of the other brands.
Dude, yes.
It's like, no, as long as you're a good dude, we're all here for the love of cars. We're not here just because our car doors go up.
We can be snobs to the rest of the world,
Sure,
but
yeah.
internally.
Yeah, we're actually a cult,
Right.
All of the other brands.
Dude, I'm a part of a few cults.
No, but even then, that being said, I wouldn't even say it's cultist there. It is a lot of this really good people. You feel good going in talking to these owners. You feel good leaving.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of holds, as again, there's always exceptions, but for the most part, I've just found that the people have been really good in this community.
So on the Facebook group, do you ever drop a picture of your green Lambo on the?
I just don't think I've done that in no. I haven't. I don't think I've ever done that.
into the McLaren owners group. You don't.
No, I've never done that.
What's up, bitches? Bam. They
as long as I don't, I think they'd be fine if I posted it, because as I said, that's actually a pretty cordial group on Facebook.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of Facebook groups, it's actually pretty cordial. If I just said, oh, I love this, as long as I didn't say, it only becomes a problem for those owners if, like, here's my SV,
yeah,
it's a V12, your cars sound like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have we talked to Steve Ellis about that, and the whole like.
So as long as you don't attack them, they're not going to get defensive for no reason.
Same like Mustang guys too.
Some people get defensive for no reason. You just posting it is offensive, especially in like the Raptor community. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you've ever been on the Raptor forum.
Oh no,
that
we're just now Ford owners.
Okay,
now, so
congratulations.
With 450s here.
We're coming around now. We can finish this podcast. If McLaren's on this side, as far as in community, how nice everyone is, and you have the Raptor owners on this side. And yeah, it is.
So I could say the Colorado group it's like one of the nicest. They're all willing to help because they're very modest trucks, man, and they're like a work play type thing, and it's been one of the coolest groups. The worst by far is the F450 owners group.
Yeah,
you think so?
Golly, dude.
No, I have not been in that group, but I'd be curious how it compares to the Raptors. Because the 450s, I mean, you know what? I could potentially see that. Not the 350, not the 250, but the 450, I could see it because 99% of the owners, and I'm going to probably get shit in the comments for this, don't use their truck.
Exactly.
You don't need a 450.
No.
You don't need a 350. I didn't need my F250. I never towed one thing with it. I just thought it was cool and wanted the 6.7 sticker on the side of it. That's why I bought it, if I'm being honest. And that's why most people buy these trucks.
Power stroke.
Exactly. I just felt cool having power down the side of it. And then you open the door and I put like an LED, like
they're banking on that.
But the 450, that is it is a lot of owners will buy them if they're not buying them.
Why does this thing ride so rough? What's the deal with these tires?
Yeah, exactly. Why
can't I find these tires anywhere?
Don't buy a 450.
Why does this not have tire pressure?
Most people are buying a 450 just to say they have a 450.
Yep.
And maybe it can kind of go hand in hand with the Raptor groups.
Because they're maybe towing their Raptors?
Maybe, but the Raptor owners, I mean, some people use their trucks, but I'd say a small percentage of them actually use their trucks with it's for, and instead a Raptor, I mean, some of the rappers are talking about their Raptors in their song now and everything, and it's become a bit like Raptors have in the truck world have become, and probably like the same with the 450, a little bit of a status symbol in the truck world.
Nice. Okay. Way to go. High five there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they're expensive trucks. They're at the top, for F-150s.
It's the insurance. You have to literally have commercial insurance.
Yeah. Over on the 450s? Yeah. Okay. So, so I haven't looked at a 450,
it's stupid. At that point, you have to have, it's a commercial truck. So,
interesting. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I would bet good money 95% of these owners are not, 450 owners are not using.
What about the TRX group?
I've heard they're pretty bad too. Not as bad, but I've heard they're pretty bad.
You can't say anything.
You cannot post a Raptor in the TRX group and vice versa. Oh my gosh, you can parse your TRX.
No, dude.
I have seen people posting their, I don't like my Raptor, here's my TRX. Yeah, and here's my TRX, and these people get reamed. I mean, it's like, ooh, like.
The TRX is a better truck.
Wow, Bailey, swinging the bat.
You ain't getting the bat. It is a better truck.
Now, I will say this.
Is this a conversation we want to have? Because if we have this conversation, I can prove
so listen, we are not haters by any means, okay? We had Steve Ellis on. He's a big Mustang guy, like Mustang god. Shout out to Steve Ellis. Awesome dude.
So why do you think the TRX is better than the Raptor R?
In my opinion, power plant's a lot more powerful than what the Raptor R can be. For one, suspension.
We're talking about as far as modifications go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about stock first, and then we'll talk about modifications.
I only modify.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. This will be a good conversation because he doesn't modify.
So I lightly modify, especially my truck. That's probably what I mod most. Stock. Do you think the TRX is a better truck than the Raptor R?
Suspension wise, absolutely, I think so.
Okay, let's break down the suspension. I'll moderate here.
Okay.
So let's break down the suspension. We'll talk about why you like the setup on the TRX. You can talk about why you like the setup on the Raptor.
Yeah.
I like the full active Fox shocks all the way around.
Okay.
The modes that they have in it are pretty damn good, and the four-wheel drive transfer case is pretty damn on point.
Okay.
So as far as being able to rock crawl, Baja, power, stock, goes through it all the time, the TRX is better.
Okay. All right.
Period.
Raptor R.
I think the suspension on the Raptors, I know the suspensions are superior than the TRX.
All right.
So especially in the new 24. So because you can get a 24 TRX still, no?
No.
No. No. So it's 25. So 23 was the last
23
year
was.
I thought you could get it.
It
Anyway,
took Ford that long to come up with it.
So Ford has the new dual valve. Do you know about the new shocks? They're dual valve, the live valve shocks on the Raptor Rs and on the regular Gen.
Yeah, it's a GM.
It's the most. It's the most. I'm not talking about GM right now. It's the most. It's the most advanced suspension ever been put on a stock truck. The TRX have coilovers on the rear stock? I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure they have leaf springs.
No, they don't. They do have coil. So it's a separate spring and a shock.
Okay, but it's not a leaf spring. It's not leaf springs on the rear. So okay, so the new Raptors don't have leaf springs either. They have the coilover shocks, all full corners. And now they have the new live valve, which are dual valves. So you have valving. Before it was just valving on compression, and now on the new ones it's on compression and rebound. And these are live valves, so they are changing. I'm going to get to it's either 1,000 times a second, 100 times a second, regardless. As soon as you are jumping, or as soon as you're whatever you're doing, it is sitting there adjusting the suspension 100 times a second.
Yeah.
And is it the same one that the TRXs have the live?
TRX are active suspension.
So I have something here. That same suspension, DSS, right? There was a GM made Magna ride.
Are you sure it's made for a GM? Because I'm pretty sure he's the GM
my
guy.
Colorado has
He's
that.
the GM guy.
He's the GM guy.
Do you know how many times he's referred his Colorado in our conversation?
If I had
McLaren is awesome.
I don't drink, but if this was a drinking game, we would be hammered.
McLaren's awesome. So is my Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like
I'm telling you,
we're not talking about GM, but the Raptor shocks the new Raptor shocks have not had any. This is made for Ford.
Okay,
they were not made for a GM. This is. And I've done these are. I mean, I don't unless Tori can start pulling up articles to say.
I mean, I feel like
but the Raptors have the most advanced suspension, and part of the reason is the better truck off road. One thing that the TRX has not done, it has not run the Baja 1000 with a stock truck.
Oh,
the Raptor has and has completed it.
Dang!
So,
really?
Yes.
Point goes.
And so
have they tried that? Has Ram tried that?
I don't know if they have tried it, but if they have, they didn't complete it and then they didn't post it.
Well, that's good. All right, so moving from suspension.
So we know that Brendan is in this. So Brendan Schaub, this is for you. You need to run your TRX.
Yeah, dude.
In the Baja.
By the way, we should actually meet. So I think
yeah. So for that being said,
okay.
Ford is putting their money where their mouth is.
Hidden Falls.
Okay. They went with so I'll say this: it is very slightly modified in the fact that they have to have a cage. Okay. So there's a cage on it, and then I believe they changed out the links. Okay. But besides that, it is stock motor, stock suspension, everything, and they run and then even their Bronco ran and got first in its class, and the Raptor got first in its class as well, in the Baja 1000.
But if you're the only brand competing in the class, then
why isn't the other brands competing?
I don't know.
Why isn't TRX is building it? So number two, the TRX is also like 500 pounds heavier.
That it is.
And so weight does not help you. Off-road does not help you with acceleration.
TRX, anything Dodge related is fat and heavy.
It's fat and heavy. And so there is quite a weight advantage for the Raptors as well. The other thing I like about the Raptors is TRX is all-wheel drive all the time. You cannot turn it off.
That it is.
The Raptors, you can make it's rear-wheel drive, but I can press one button
and do a donut.
It's all-wheel drive. And exactly. I can do a donut. Now it's all-wheel drive.
I run it through a pond.
Yes. Yep. So I can change it to 4-all, which is an electronic all-wheel drive. And then it has 4 high, which starts locking stuff, and then it has 4 low.
Yeah.
So it has a lot more modes a lot more off-road capability modes over the TRX does, because it has a much wider range. The software it has a much wider range of software of different capabilities, where it's changing the software for off-road, for the type for rock crawling. There's a rock crawl mode, there's an off-road mode, there's a sport mode, there's a normal mode, there's a tow mode, a wet mode, and a Baja mode.
There's a snow ice mode too.
Yeah, the wet mode is the wet weather mode.
Yeah, I was in the Raptor R in Bozeman, man. It was great.
And it's and every single mode changes the dynamic of the truck significantly.
Yeah.
Off-road, if you just put and you guys are welcome to go find the YouTube video. There's a YouTube video of a TRX and a Raptor stock going over the bumps and everything. That Raptor cab is pretty much smooth. That TRX looks like it's in like Dukes of Hazzard. It's like, you watch that video, that will single-handedly debunk the TRX's suspension over the Raptor R.
So we have
500 pounds doesn't add weight. And for what it's worth, and hopefully he doesn't watch this, but I have a friend that I had my Raptor R, and I have the video.
Oh no.
I have proof.
Okay.
Raptor R and TRX next to each other. We step on it off-road race. I put it in all-wheel drive mode. It wasn't even close.
Oh no.
It wasn't even close. And one of them broke their steering, and wasn't mine.
Oh no.
Was it a GM?
It was a
No.
Or was it a Colorado?
It was a TRX.
Dude.
So that one thing I was passionate about. I know there's a reason the Raptor R's are $15,000 more MSRP,
I like those cars.
and there's a reason they have another $15,000 to $20,000 EDM on top of it, and it's because it is the superior product.
I will say that I am super impressed with how Ford recently released that they are going to heavily continue to push
I saw
the
that.
Raptor market
Mhm.
and its clientele. So they're going to continue to go down that R&D road of Raptors and improving
love
the
it.
Raptor line.
I saw that too. Yeah, from an objective standpoint, absolutely. I mean, I'll commend any company, regardless of it, not GM, but almost any company.
No Colorado.
No Colorado.
I've actually
Not
not
the ZR1. We do ZR1 with them. Yeah, but anyway, Ford. I mean, Cummins saying that they're going to start investing back in combustion. I mean,
Yeah.
Jim. I mean, CEO. He drove like the Ford Lightning across the U.S. and realized, no, this is actually we don't have the infrastructure for this. This wasn't actually that fun.
It sucks.
And now let's look at expanding our combustion again. So I mean, I really, as far as a company goes, I really am happy with where Ford, the direction they're going, as far as where they're putting their money back into combustion engines, rolling back on EV, which no one wants.
Twin turbo Coyote for the Raptor.
Yeah. So, but anyway, to wrap up your conversation about Raptor R versus TRX, I'm definitely open to hearing modification stuff. That my knowledge starts running thinner, just because I'm not a big modification guy. My modifications I have done to my Raptor R, I've left the engine stock. I now have the brand new Gen 3 as of last week. Fox made a race series shock specifically for the Raptor. For the Gen 3, they made it for the Gen 2 Raptor, and now they have the Gen 3. It just got released at SEMA this year. I just got that pair, the race series shocks, put on my truck like a week ago. I've done a little off-roading, not extensively, but it just makes it another level off-road. Pretty much it's probably the best you can get without going full-fledged long travel. And it is, I mean, it rides like a Cadillac on road, and then off-road it soaks up everything. And other than that, I have light bars because I have some light bars, and I mean it's like built into the grill, so honestly it's pretty. It looks like pretty OEM. So I have suspension that I have like links that really people say you get an extra inch of travel. An extra inch only makes
That's
a
the
difference.
forums. That's the forums talking.
But I don't care. Like honestly, like that much. I didn't get them. Honestly, they look cool. And one of them says I have like custom RPG. It says send it on one side and
nice.
hang on the other, which actually matches my 911 Dakar, my off-road Porsche, which is outside right now. I send it on the driver's side sill and hang on the passenger. So just having a little bit of fun with it.
Nice.
But modification-wise, I know the TRX is that 6.2 has
Screams.
a lot of potential.
Well, I think even what you can do, not just to the motor and the Hemi, and we know that that's a incredible platform.
It is.
It's you expend a little money on a TRX. I would say that Delta, like if you took what it cost to get the Raptor and you started putting it back into the suspension on the
Potentially.
TRX,
That's where you start.
It's a 4-year-old technology that you're competing against with a Raptor R.
right?
So if Ram was to compete and not fall into this BS politic game with EV, would they come out with something that would be equivalent to what Raptors come out
Or would
in
they seem to-
current
Yeah,
2024?
I mean, competition is what makes
'cause
everything better.
Yeah, because you see those trucks and you're like, man,
I'm sad to see the TRX go because
it's probably not going anywhere.
maybe not now with I mean, we won't get political here, but it seems
We
like
always end up somehow.
it seems like the next 4 years is going to be brighter for American automotive. So maybe we'll see more. See them stretch it out a bit longer. But I mean, I really like it because the Gen 1 Raptor was good. The Gen 2 Raptor though was a different level than the Gen 1.
Yeah.
And then the Gen 3 is another, but they have to stay competitive because they have TRX came out and now they're putting out competitive products, and you have to be able to compete with that. But
Do you own any EVs?
No.
Why?
So I own. I mean,
A golf cart? Come on, Steven.
I take it back. I own a golf cart, and it is electric. And the only reason it's electric because I have to have it with the HOA regulations. It has to be an easy go.
Yeah.
And this brown color.
No, he's not joking.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a hybrid.
Yep.
But that's not an EV. So why I don't own any EVs? Going back to being an enthusiast, I am all about driver engagement and what the car gives to me as an experience. I have driven a lot of EV cars. I've driven Tesla Plaids. I've driven regular Tesla. They're entry-level models. Mm-hmm. And I've driven a $2.5 million Pininfarina Battista all-electric car with 1,900 horsepower. So I have a good range. I have experienced the top of EV. That is the best. The Pininfarina Battista is the same underpinnings of the Rimac Nevera, which is the best, arguably the best hypercar technology out there. So Pininfarina, if they saw this, would probably hate me if I say this, but it pretty much is a Rimac with a body kit.
Okay.
Suspension slightly tuned a little different. Aero's a little different. Body design's completely different, but same underpinning, same kind of drivetrain. So I guess where EV is impressive, obviously, is the performance, especially in a straight line. You cannot beat instantaneous torque of electricity.
Right.
And the combustion cannot compete on that level, getting that much power out of that kind of, it's just not possible. So for me as an enthusiast, going back to the enthusiast perspective, I find the speed is one aspect of a car for me. It is not the aspect, whereas most people treat it as the aspect. But as an enthusiast, you have cars handling, you have suspension feel, you have steering feel, you have exhaust notes, you have the sounds the cars make, and then you have speed. So you have a lot of elements that make these cars unique, and that all adds to an experience. I mean, whenever you're sitting there driving like a Porsche GT3 RS, you're sitting there it's 520 horsepower, so it's it's good speed, but it's not crazy fast.
Right.
But you are sitting there
you're on the motor.
You're on the motor, and just hearing that flat six scream to 9,000 RPMs
is beautiful.
It elicits different feelings. At the end of the day, you're not buying these sports cars for grocery getters. I do take them as a grocery getter, but that's not, if you need to get your kids to school, I take my daughter to school, but that's not why I got it. I'm not saying I need this. So I guess, EVs in general, I mean, I understand EVs. The reason why I don't own one is honestly, they're just, especially here in Texas, we do a lot of driving. They're not exciting to drive for me.
It's a disconnect.
And so even driving that Pininfarina Battista, 1,900 horsepower. I don't know the pound-feet of torque off the top of my head, but it's right around, I think it's 1,800. It's right around there. It is blisteringly fast.
That's weak.
Like the fastest. Maybe you guys, I have 2,000, but I mean, it is the fastest acceleration I've ever experienced.
It's weird acceleration,
yeah, no.
isn't it? It's
I
a
mean,
weird
even
feeling.
Even
it's
the Plaids and stuff.
So you've been in small jets, right?
Yes.
So that's the kind of feeling you get in electric. It's just
it is.
a weird.
It's like a weird feeling. So you can feel it. But besides that, like, I mean, so let's say, I mean, you can look at EVs as two categories. Kind of, they make EVs so you can take your kid to school. They have the electric vans, they have the electric, SUVs.
Yep.
Tesla has the 4 doors, and then you have the sports cars. Regardless, for me, I daily drive a Raptor R because I like the 5.2 liter supercharged V8. I still love the sound. I like the feel of the truck. So even for my daily drivers, I prefer that. There's an engagement factor, even if it's not going to handle as good as a McLaren.
Right.
So that's why I don't have an EV in my daily life. And then on the sports car side, there's a lot of EVs now coming to market. But as an enthusiast, there is a disconnect, as we just talked about, with EVs, where you have the speed, but besides that, car makes no noise. That is from the car itself. I mean, some have like sound pumping in speakers and everything, but the car makes no noise. The car has it's electric steering. There's no actual your inputs when you steer. You're not actually steering anything. You are just putting in. It is a computer. You steer, and then the computer's telling it. Granted, a lot of supercars these have electronic steering, but it's just that as a total package, speed is one thing, and it is not one aspect. And the EV cars don't offer me any of the other enjoyment aspects of the driver's car.
It's all the other inputs.
It's
the
all the other
sensory,
inputs.
the smell,
Exactly.
the sound,
The smell, the feel.
Yep.
When you start up these cars, like the P1 or I have a McLaren 765 LT coming in, which is their track-oriented 7 Series car, coming in, Super Series car coming in next week. When you start these cars, there's a vibration that you just feel,
and you're like,
and it is
needs to warm up.
Exactly. It is just instantly is already starting an experience before you even move the car an inch. There's, you said, there's smells, there's a feel, there's a sound. You are getting your senses heightened in other ways.
We said that when we walked in.
Yeah, exactly.
We said, "Oh, we're at the right spot.
Smells like cars.
Smells like cars."
Yeah, I was just moving cars about 45 minutes beforehand, getting them all pretty lined
Smells
up.
like shop. Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's just, I love all those other aspects of cars. And so,
But if all of these were electric, we wouldn't be able to tell.
No, and the market reflects that.
Yeah.
I mean, EV cars are selling better for regular. So I see EV cars kind of being, if you need it as a daily driver, you want to go plug it in. I understand it for that. It's still not a product for me. It doesn't excite me or get me. I still want to drive my daily drivers. I'm never going to own a Camry. I'm never going to own just a regular car. In my daily driving, I still like to drive exciting cars.
Sure.
And so it's just not a product for me, but I understand the EVs on that side.
Right.
Top performance cars too, if they're really pushing boundaries, pushing what technology can do, I can kind of understand it to an extent there, but it's still not for me. But the market, especially on the sports car side, I guess even on the SUV side, it has been reflected in the past couple of years
no one
wants them.
Yeah.
So, for example, McLaren just came out with their new hybrid car.
Yep.
It's a McLaren W1, 2.2 or 2.3 million starting price. They're making 399 cars. Ferrari just came out with their F80 hypercar. Both cars are hybrids. The W1's a V8. The F80 is actually a V6, which is a little controversial, but still, without delving into that, it's still a twin turbo V6. Not people are as excited about that, but it still has an engine. They're making 799 coupes of those, and they're going to likely come out with convertible versions. Same with McLaren. Both of those cars that you are pretty much invited to buy, because there's so much demand for that. There is demand in the hypercar realm for multi-million-dollar cars. I mean, Pagani came out with their Unitopia. Those were gone before the car was even launched. Koenigsegg came out with their new Jesko, however you want to pronounce it. Those were gone, like literally right when they showed at the Geneva show. By the end of the day, all those cars are gone. And these are like low production cars. The Paganis and the Koenigsegs, you're talking, a couple hundred cars.
Right.
Very, very low production. And then you're out here with the Rimac Nevera or the Pininfarina Battista, which also only making a couple hundred cars, hypercars in this price range, 2.5 million. And they have been trying to sell these cars for years. And you can walk in today and buy one, whereas you can't go unless you have been buying a lot of McLarens or a lot of Ferraris or anything. There's no way you're going to get offered one of these cars, but you could go in tomorrow and they'll pretty much beg you to try to buy these cars because there's no demand.
So we've talked about the world or the two extremes, our combustion engine and our electric. Is there a world for the hybrid? where they both go in? And are we just barely touching the surface of hybrid integration into
So hybrids, I have
supercar?
different feelings about. Initially, I wasn't sure about hybridization, but seeing what they can offer and how you can still get every aspect that I look for in an enthusiast car, this being my perfect example, the P1 right here, I'm all for hybridization. With, as I said, on a contingency. So the P1, LaFerrari, and the 918, these were the Holy Trinity, right, the hyper cars, right?
Okay.
They came out in 2014, 2015, considered the Holy Trinity, as I said. All of these cars were the best of what the world had to offer as far as road legal cars could. All of them went in. Porsche went in with the Porsche 918. Ferrari went in with the LaFerrari.
Mhm.
McLaren went in with the P1, and they pretty much said, we don't really have a budget right now for these cars. We're just going to go in and try to make the best the world has to offer for with the best technology, which back in 2014, 2015, hybridization was pretty new.
Yep.
And so, but what was different is they didn't do these hybrid cars for emissions. Ferrari still went in and put a big V12 in it.
Mhm.
Porsche has a bespoke V8 for the 918.
Yep.
And then McLaren has their V8. So the combustion, got to a point where we're kind of at the pinnacle, near the pinnacle of combustion engines, what we're capable of doing. And so what hybridization allows, especially with the P1, the LaFerrari 918, is when those electric motors were added, not from an emission standpoint, but to enhance any pitfalls, any small pitfall downfalls of the combustion engine. What I mean by that is it's stuff that we can barely even perceive, but there is a very small amount of time anytime you shift a gear, even with the dual clutch, 10th of a second or whatever it is. But there's a torque fill for the electric where that motor is on during that time. So you're still accelerating on those 10th of a second, 100th of a second time.
Yep.
The LaFerrari is naturally aspirated, but like the P1 right here is twin turbo.
So you got a lag.
And so, yeah, as I said, even though the twin turbo technology is so good where you have very, very little lag, there is still always going to be a small amount of lag. As I said, it's not very perceivable. You can't really tell.
Well, unless you're driving supercharged cars.
Yeah, exactly. But
you're like,
but it is still but that being said, as your turbos are spooling up, you have that electric motor instantaneous giving you that power right there when you need. And so it feels, you're getting power where
it's like a bolt-on, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, is that how you feel about it? Like it's like a bolt-on for a naturally aspirated car.
So yeah, like a supercharger or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, in a way, it's pretty much is giving you instantaneous power anytime there might be slight power cuts or slight where combustion engines where it takes a second or two or milliseconds for them to fill in those gaps, and that electric motor is going and filling in those gaps.
And you like that idea.
Where it's seamless. And so I like the idea of right from the start when you're instantaneous torque off the line. I have instantaneous torque. The responsiveness, anytime you're driving a naturally aspirated car, there is, whether it's receivable or not, a lag time between you putting in your foot down and then the engine responding, right?
Sure.
That electric motor, it responds
on,
instantly.
Yeah, it's on.
So as soon as you touch that gas pedal, you're going.
Yes.
And so that's where the benefit of electricity can help via hybridization of these cars. Where I have more of a problem with it myself, from, again, this is an opinion, is whenever there are cars now that are coming out that, so for the P1, I'll backstep, LaFerrari 918 P1, the hybrid engine was there to assist the engine.
Yep.
Where I start having a little bit more of an issue with hybrid is whenever the engine is there, but it's just there to assist the hybrid system.
Yes,
So
that's
whenever
what
it
I was about
flips.
to refer to.
And that's when you start losing some of the engagement, because it is predominantly you're getting most of your power from the
Right.
electric motor and
then
everything.
the feel, everything is completely different.
Yes, and then it's very different.
It's
Whenever
flat.
it's primarily hybrid, and then almost like a lot of the time the engine is just there, just on. You can extend range a bit. It can help sit there and charge the
As
hybrid
a
system.
generator, yeah.
As a generator, and so it's so a good example of that is Mazda is coming out with a new SUV. I cannot remember the name of it, but they are actually bringing back rotary technology
Wow.
for the first time to this, for the first time since the RX-7, or in the RX-8 to this car. They're bringing, because they have that technology patent. They brought it back, and so it's technically hybrid, but it's mainly electric. And that the way that rotary works is because the rotary is not a very efficient engine, so it actually works to help with trying to charge the car. Keep the car charged and everything. I don't know. Beyond that, I read an article about that.
Probably a better magneto than it is a combustion engine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe beyond that, I can't get into like engineering specifics exactly how it works because I've only read like an article or two about it. But I thought it was interesting. So hybridization, as long as it's
what are some of the cars that you feel like are fails that are hybrid? Like high
BMW i8.
Okay.
I said I'll probably get some shit for that too. But market reflex and everything, they're not good cars.
I think are you saying that just BMW wise? Or are you saying that
the i8 in particular?
Just
the i8. That was a very early hybrid technology.
It looks a little spacey to me. I mean, for me, it's.
From the design perspective, that'll be personal opinion. It doesn't bother me, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, an i8. But the range sucks on it. Like it was made to like have this hybrid engine and everything to help with range, to help with gas mileage, and it didn't really. It's not doing like its objectives it came out with. It's not really it's nailing any of the
its market was all
yeah,
off.
exactly.
I mean, it was highly. What's another one?
Another hybrid. Are we talking in the sport car realm? Or
no, I have to be kind of in the sport car.
I guess this is more about sports cars, right? This is not picking out your next minivan show, right?
Maybe.
I guess,
thinking about modding the caravan.
Now the next 4 years, we might get the hell van or something, right?
Well, no. So Brendan mentioned that on a pod, and he was like, well, somebody's going to mod the minivan, the caravan, and Chris mentioned that, and he was like, what do you mean somebody? So
elephant.
Now we've got Chris to look forward to modding,
try to put something in
Hellcat swapping the minivan.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I feel like a hybrid technology, and I've said this for a few years now, since before they were really trying to push the electric agenda, that if there was a way to make our muscle car world that we like to be in a hybrid aspect, that we could drag race, if you could use the hybrid part to get you off the line and the engine take over to do what it's best at, then you would have a pretty lethal. That aspect of it would change the drag racing world.
Totally.
You're already seeing that in supercar realm. There's cars like the Valkyrie, for example, or even when it initially starts moving, there's no noise, and then the engine kicks on. And so where it starts off electric, and then it or they have it to where like you can save a little bit of weight. The reverse gear, there's no reverse gear. The electric motors are like you use that as like on the W1. There's no electric motor. That's the reverse.
Nice.
So you are already seeing that kind of already in some of these supercars and everything. So I think it will come to the muscle car realm as well. Generally, it's
the class issue, and I don't know, man. So there's a few, and you see a bend because they're like, hey, we've got an electric car class coming up. It's how do you do that?
I think the wave or the future for cars is going to be a hybrid part of it.
I think you're right. It's the same aspect of like run what you brung, right? And
there's a Dodge has not Dodge, because the Dodge doesn't make it, but ZF, the manufacturer of the trans, has a hybrid version of our transmissions. So it has the forward gear where it's electric, and then your engine power plant takes over. And I think that's that's only the next step. Now, your old heads in this world will never accept it. I think it would take our generation
to start to move the needle just a little bit.
To start to be like, okay, this can work. How can we make it better? And then now it's us that's leading the way as far as
so our kids can have some
making improvements on the electric motor aspect, and being versed in gas and how to make power out of that, and doing all of your hybrid upgrades that you can too.
Sure.
Because it's a circuit board that everybody needs to be involved with on computers. That's just every day.
Sure.
Yep.
And
I think hybrid is here to stay. I think that I in my personal opinion, and you can look back in 15 years and see if I'm a crystal ball or right. But always thought, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I think that EV stuff is electric vehicles. People are, especially, our government and worldwide, just kind of feel about it is they're trying to push this as a total replacement to where all cars on the road are EV by a certain deadline. I don't think that will ever happen.
Ever, dude. You can't take that away.
No, and so I think the EV car, as far as electric vehicles, is a bit of a trend right now that we're going to, like, in 10, 15, 20 years, look back and be like, I think it was a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And where we, like, really delved in, like, put a lot of R&D into the technology. And with that technology, now they're able to switch that over and, like, improve hybrid systems and everything. But, I mean, the market has shown people don't want EV, like, from a large market.
Pure electric.
Pure electric.
Yeah.
People don't want it.
No, they don't want, hey, you have to drive what we tell you what to drive.
Exactly.
That's what they fucking don't
People
want.
also don't want to be, exactly. I don't want to be told that either. But even then, like, we just don't have the infrastructure.
I don't want emissions on my fucking cars.
Yeah.
That's the other part
But
of it.
power, too, isn't just like, you don't just sit there and it doesn't come from nowhere. Like, you're still getting power. So you're sitting there plugging your car in, and then it's coming from, like, a cold power plant. And it's like,
or a grid that
and
won't
then-
keep up.
well,
It's
then
all
something that we
coming
don't see right now, because a lot of EV cars are new, but in 15, 20 years, once these batteries have been refurbished 3 times, there's going to be a point where, like, the battery's not good anymore.
They suck.
How do you dispose of this thing?
Yeah.
Like, we just don't have a reliable, like, I feel like everyone trying to make EV works are so, like, downstream of it. Like, all right, EV cars is the solution for that, but everything behind, the upstream from it, where are we getting this power from? And then downstream from the car, how are we disposing of these electric cars? There's no solution for that.
There's no infrastructure.
There's no infrastructure. It's not sustainable.
Right.
So I think that EV cars are a bit of a trend, and I think that we'll always have EV cars for the people. There is a small market for it. There's a market for EV cars, but I think that, Porsche now just announced they're going, investing, I think, like another $900 million back into combustion engines. Ford's coming out saying they're going back into combustion engines.
Dodge.
We're reinvesting back in the combustion engine, and so I think electric cars are going to be around. I think EV cars are going to be around, and I think that, combustion cars to a degree will be around too. But I do not ever see a complete replacement of combustion.
What a cool time to be alive in the
It's
automotive
interesting.
world.
Yeah.
It has the same pattern. History repeats itself. They all did the same thing.
I know.
You had the 60s, 70s of V8s. Then you had the 4-cylinder push and fuel efficiency. And then that died off. And then here comes the big V8 push. We've been fortunate enough to live again in the big horsepower race of gas engines again.
Right.
Where it's now we're living again where it was the Ford Pinto, the front wheel drives that came out of that era in 70s, 80s, 90s. Now here we are, 2000s, back into doing big V8 pushes again. And here we are in fuel efficient. It's a cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Even in the 90s, they went through like a whole era of aerodynamics trying to get better fuel efficiency.
Yep.
And you ended up with some ugly cars, but or 80s, I should say.
Yeah.
But it is a cycle where they're trying to solve problems for fuel efficiency and then it always ends up coming back around.
Just stop.
Like you said, there's a cyclical or historical perspective of this. So we'll be looking back 10, 15, 20 years ago
They have
from
to.
now and see kind of what this ultimate, where this ends up. Because we're kind of hitting a wall right now on EV sales and everything. So it's like where these manufacturers going to go with their new money with the combustion engines.
So stop fighting the gas engines.
Yeah,
we're
stop
here to
fighting
stay.
it.
Yes.
Exactly. I think they're here to stay.
Don't fight the cuddle. We're here.
Just
We're
embrace.
here to stay.
Yeah,
Just
I
embrace
think we
us.
have technology to keep combustion engines where you can still save the planet but still have your V8. I really think that we didn't have the technology 10 or 15 years ago, but combustion engines have become a lot greener.
Oh yeah, a lot more efficient.
And so I think that just evolving on that technology, I think that you can get to a point where there's a happy medium where the politicians are satisfied, the emissions are satisfied, but then consumers are still satisfied as well.
Yeah. So we've gone on a lot of tangents of the cars you have, opinions, things like that, and how TRX is better than Ford.
Yeah.
Which
How
is
is
sweet
it?
of you to admit, by the way. That's pretty awesome.
I said we'll have to we'll do
We
some,
we
yeah,
control
YouTube links
editing
to-
rights.
I guess I'm gonna.
Oh, his voice changes every time he says that TRX is better. So we've gone on all of these things that opinions on what you think cars are going, things like that. How have you been able to get this kind of collection that you have? What do you do on your day to day?
So right now, I own my own company called
Okay.
Wolf Property Holdings. That's my parent LLC. I'm a real estate investor, specializing in development. And but as an investor, even though I specialize in development, as long as there's a good deal, whether it's for land or for a fix and flip, residential or commercial, I'm always deal finding. I don't limit myself to any one product type. Initially, when I first got into my business, this was back in 19. So before that, I worked for my father's company from high school and then on. He has a dog boarding and training facility.
Okay.
About 30 minutes from here in Hutto. It's the largest boarding and training facility for dogs in North America. And then he also has a product line, and the product line is called Starmark. Sells in every Petco and PetSmart across the nation, most mom and pop stores, and distributes to over 50 countries. So that's where I kind of started in business, and I had a very blessed opportunity working with my father in that and learning a lot really quickly.
Family business, dude.
Family business.
That's
I majored in economics and everything. That was my father's one criteria: is you need to go get a business degree, and so I was a project manager there. I wore a lot of hats though, and then for product development to helping with their manufacturing side. My father started Starmark Solutions, which is a manufacturing plant.
Okay.
And that's before I started my own company. That's kind of where I was for several years. And that was kind of the hub he was trying to move a lot of his products over from China to the U.S. And instead of having another manufacturer make his products for him, he's like, you know what? I think I can figure out how to start my own manufacturing plant and actually make these here, which is a huge undertaking.
yeah.
Massive, because most people, that's very unique in that business.
Well, they were doing the opposite at that time.
Yeah, exactly. Most people are doing China, and he was trying to bring it back before even all these tariffs. I mean, this was a while back.
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity working there with him for many years, and really enjoyed that and learned, as I said, 20 years of education in business and just a few years. So I said I had a blessed opportunity being in a family business that was successful with that. So back in 2019, I had kind of, I guess, reached my potential with that, and ultimately decided, my father ultimately wanted to kind of hand that company down to me, but he built this from the ground up in his backyard. And like training dogs.
We know.
And yeah, exactly. He built that company up from, he was training dogs in his backyard for people.
Really?
And then he graduated top of his class for as a dog training school out of the 20 years they've been open. And so he started that, grew it to what it is now today. I had become a part of that company. So he was planning to hand that company down to me, but I saw what he had done and how hard he had worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I had told him that, while I appreciate the opportunity, it ultimately wasn't something I was passionate about. And so I told him that, you know what, whenever you're done with the company, I don't want it. I want you to sell it and you go buy your beach house in Florida and you enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, dude.
But he gave me so much value and knowledge, and I got so much, through him. Even just growing up, just listening, just hearing how he does business, I got so much value from an early age in business, learning how things work, how to start things. And he's an entrepreneur, and so I have that in my blood, and that's what I ultimately wanted to be myself, as an entrepreneur. So I said, you know what, I'm going to step away. In 2019, sat down with him. I wasn't sure how the conversation would go, but I had a good feeling that he would be open to it, and I told him, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity what you're trying to give me here, but I would like to try to build something myself. And
he probably already knew that, man.
Yeah. So no, exactly. I mean, he raised me. I saw how he did it growing up.
Yeah.
It's
And
the fun part.
Yeah, exactly. And while I had an extremely good opportunity where I was,
Yeah.
and extremely good potential once he steps down and retired, me taking over and everything. I mean, most people wouldn't turn that opportunity, but
No.
at the end of the day, I knew I could do something on my own and wanted to, and that's what I was passionate about, is finding my own way.
Yeah.
And so in 2019, sat down with him, told him about that, and it was very well received. And he supported me right off the bat.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur too. I
feel your pain.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, it was in my blood to start. And so, and he supported me right off the bat. I was like, I'm in full support of what you want to do.
Awesome.
And so in 2019, I started Wolf Property Holdings, which is my real estate investment company. And that, I said, I majored in economics. My wife and I both did. I had a pretty good idea. I had some capital. I could get everything started with that. And so I started investing. Anything I read a lot of. I ended up reading a ton of books. I took a lot of classes from Rice University.
Top 2 books for real estate.
Top 2 books for real estate. Depends on what you want to do in real estate.
Investing.
I really like. It is. I believe this book is called Brandon Turner Bigger Pockets. I believe the title is just called How to Invest in Real Estate. It's very basic, but kind of a generic title. But that kind of broke down multiple aspects of investing in real estate, and it helped me kind of refine. Like, I ended up wanting to do development.
So that's number 1.
That would be probably number 1, and number 2 actually is not a real estate book.
I love these.
But it's a finance book.
Okay.
And it's very easy to read, and it's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And it's probably only 130, 140 pages, but the way the book reads, I believe it was written in like the 30s. It kind of breaks down different stories that kind of sound like biblical parables.
Mm-hmm.
And but breaks them down to where, like, all the principles, if you took that book and applied that today, I think anyone could be a millionaire. I firmly believe that's the thing. It's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if you took these principles in these books and applied all of them, you'd be a millionaire.
And it's called
Richest Man in
Richest
Babylon.
Man. That sounds familiar.
So that's my.
And I can tolerate 140 pages.
I'm not a big reader, but it reads like like the Bible.
I could do that.
It's a good story because it breaks it down very simply. It talks about it's not boring. It's not like, here's finance 101 and then you have some, it breaks it down like I'm going to kind of stereotype it here, but like this is goat farmer and he has these many goats and he's had this hardships, and then he takes the goats to this person who takes the skin off them and then resells the tanner and resells them for more, and then that person then takes it and turns it into another product.
Okay.
So it breaks it down in little short stories like that.
Teaching people how to make relationships to make money.
Yeah, teaches people how to make relationships and teaching people about money and teaching people concepts that you don't really learn in school, like compounding interest.
Yeah.
It's just
me started, dude.
And that's it's like real wealth building principles that people don't get educated on.
I was going to ask you about that.
Difference.
How did you feel about your dad saying, "Hey, one of the things I want you to do is get an economics degree"?
Well, he just had a business degree.
Okay.
And
so your kid, do you feel like when she has the opportunity, are you going to push for higher education or?
I'm going. That's a good question. I was very much so pushed towards higher education.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that before the pod even started because
yes.
it's the age of our parents, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But now she's like, hey, I don't know if I want to go or.
So it depends on, if we're getting into a higher education topic.
Just a
little bit. I'm going to say it depends. It depends what she wants to do. A business degree is.
How does that help you?
It has helped me as far as it gave me a lot of tools.
Okay.
So unlike you don't have to have a business degree to have a business. I mean, yeah, I don't know if you have a degree or not, but anyway, you don't have to have a business degree in order to run a business, start a business, or learn how to operate a business successfully.
Right.
So a business degree for me gave me a lot of different tools and refined setting, structured setting.
You had everything that you saw in your dad's business, all that exposure. You felt maybe you needed an outside, like a credible. Yeah,
it honestly kind of helped with that, and then it helped to validate certain things.
Right.
And then it refined certain skills that I had to take marketing classes, I had to take accounting classes, I had to take finance classes, economics classes, business management, ethics. I had to take all different types.
Well,
of
you
subjects.
learned all of those things actually count.
That gave me a lot more tools where like my taxes are a bit complicated with, all the different projects and stuff I have going on, and so I have an accountant. Accounting is not my bread and butter. I'll tell you that right now. So I have an accountant, but that accounting classes, as much as I do not like those, it allows me to have a conversation where I can help speak a similar language to him.
Or even hire an accountant.
Yeah, exactly. Or even know how to hire an accountant. Taking accounting made me learn really quickly I need to hire an accountant.
Exactly.
Not trying to figure this out on my own. Because that accountant is worth every dollar.
Yes, and then you're like, a good one will hold you hostage.
Oh yeah, exactly. So like with my
what do you need?
Yep. Yeah. No, exactly. Like, please just help me. They're worth every penny plus more.
So what did you take away from working with your dad at the business? What's the main thing that you learned from that you couldn't have gotten at school? But what did you take away from that helped you with your current ventures?
Probably, it's a good question. I would say work ethics. My dad is a very ethical person, and he's always about doing things, right. Not trying to sit here and just squeeze every last dollar out of something, but then it comes back and bites him on the ass at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then doing things like him going and saying, instead of, it's very admirable bringing your products over here to the U.S. to be manufactured here, but then going one step further and saying, I make and design dog toys. Now I'm going to go figure out how to run a full-fledged manufacturing plant.
Right.
These are like, even though you're making dog toys, it's a completely different industry. It's a completely different segment. He could be making baby bottles.
Right.
Like, he knows he can make anything now, not just dog toys. Like, they're different. That's
right.
So I learned that kind of like not to place limits on myself, because he didn't know anything. He had some education in manufacturing just because he's worked with manufacturers, but besides that education is this small compared to what you have to learn to build a whole manufacturing plant and hire the right people to run it.
It's a huge undertaking.
It is, and so seeing him take on undertakings like that, which I think most people, including myself, just seems so monumental, and seeing that he did that and he did it successfully.
Wow.
It changed the value I found there is it changed the way I look at challenges and about monumental tasks. A quote my dad told me very recently, I was talking to him just a month ago, and something that stuck with me, there's a few things he told me over life that always sticks with me, and something he told me recently is, and I've been chewing on it a lot, and it's so true, is he told me, don't put limitations on yourself. The world will do that for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And if you think about that, it's very true in the fact that most people sit there and limit themselves. I can't do that because I don't know how to get from here to there. But that being said, there is limitations to what we can do. And some people, they'll sit there and read motivational things like, and with the line in the background and everything, like the only person limiting yourself is yourself, which is true to an extent, but I'm not going to, no matter how hard I work and try, like I'm likely not going to go become an astronaut just because I think I'm a smart guy, but I just don't have the intelligence to be able to be that, it's likely not going to happen.
I think it's more about recognizing who you are.
Exactly. Like, there's limitations. We're like, I'm going,
that's the battle.
Or I'm going to turn into Superman. No, I could probably go to the gym and get really strong and everything.
Yeah.
But there's consequences.
But though I'm not going to end up being Superman, so the world's going to put that limit on me.
Right.
And with that kind of mindset, with that, I'm really the only person that's limiting myself. And if I don't want to take on a task or take on a new development that I see monumental, once I kind of freed myself of that thought that, I can do this, it is just kind of seeing him doing that has given me a mindset that I can do anything within my scope.
Yep.
And if that all makes sense.
So so you went from helping the family business, dog toys, training, stuff like that.
So to my business now. So I took everything I've learned there in college, lessons from my father and everything, and started my own company, Wolf Property Holdings, to real estate, because that's what I've been passionate about.
Where did that come from, that passion?
For real estate?
Yes.
I really like the idea of so people, there's like developers out there who have their software and everything. That's what they're really proud of, everything. But I really like, that's not very tangible. I love, like, even as a kid, I would build Lego, just something. I love having a tangible finish line. Like, I built this. This is, I mean, you can kind of see, I mean, in your work.
Yeah, that little company that I started is awesome because I love the outcomes.
Yeah, exactly. You go out and, and then you're sitting there touching, with my like lake you built. You can go out there and physically touch what you built and everything. And then you're like, to look across and you're like, I did this.
Yeah, it looks great.
This is me, So I love going, and it's just such a cool feeling to drive by a building I own or something I am developing and being, watching it and go through phases and be like, you know what? That is there because of me.
Yeah.
And there's just such a cool feeling, or taking my little girl and driving her by it and be like, that's there because of your dad. And, therefore, whatever you want to do later in life, you'll be able to not have any limitations on yourself. And literally, whether it's in real estate or somewhere else, I'm not going to push her one way or another.
Yeah.
Just kind of show her, like, this stuff is real. It can happen. So I like actually seeing stuff tangible and everything. That's why I like real estate, because
for kids, man, it's so cool.
Yeah, but I can go tap the side of my building and everything, and it feels cool. It really does. So that's kind of my. And then the other thing is, I think that it's very important. So I'm passionate about building stuff. I'm passionate about developing things and, having actual physical properties.
Yep.
But the, lost my train of thought here. The growth potential in real estate is unlimited. And I think it's very important. People sit there and ask, like, they come to me and ask for advice. And one of my best pieces of advice is, I think it's very important to be passionate about what you do. I mean, you're going to hear that on every single motivational podcast.
This podcast especially, it's like everything you got to love.
You have to love what you do. And you hear that is told, 100 times throughout any kind of motivational anything.
Yeah.
You have to love what you do, because you will not work your hardest at it if you don't. But I'm going to take it one step further. For my situation, if you want for me to be able to own cars like this and everything, is find what you're passionate about that also has unlimited growth potential. And if it doesn't have unlimited growth potential, that's totally fine if you're passionate about it and that's what you want. If you're an artist and you're really good at art and that's what you're passionate about,
do it.
That's awesome. Go for it. But if you come here and ask me, how can I be an artist and own a P1?
To get lucky, dude.
It gets a lot more difficult, because the growth potential there is there's not a lot. There's one of you. You can only pump out so many paintings, so many drawings. You only have so many hours in a day. So I'm very passionate. I mean, I'm passionate about cars. I'm passionate about a lot of things. But so I think people can have a lot of passions, but then identifying one, a business that has unlimited growth potential is where you can, there's no limits.
Yep.
There's no limits to what I can build or develop or anything like that.
So when you look and say that as growth potential in your real estate world, what does that mean? When you're looking at growth potential, what's your next step? What's the growth? Is it a bigger property?
I can kind of walk you through, like, starting off in 2019 when I started my company. I had business experience. I had business degrees. My business degree, and I educated myself a lot in real estate before I started anything in real estate. And I already had a lot of connections in real estate, which does help. Your network is, But anyway, so I started off, with things that were a little bit smaller, easier to chew. Like, I'm not super risk adverse, so I started with like fix and flips.
Okay.
Like residential fix and flips, and then I did some of those. I was successful. I educated myself on what market prices for tile flooring and this was, so I could put together my numbers. You have to know your numbers. And then I had a friend that is a builder that does like high-end residential development, and I met him through the car community. Funny enough.
Well, and we're finding a lot of people are meeting through the car community.
It's
so
pretty much
crazy.
All my friends, every single one of my friends is through the car community.
It's like an inner circle, trust circle.
So to answer your question, so that went from fix and flips, me kind of learning a bit more out of the residential side to, and I went pretty much straight from that to residential high-end development, custom development, with the help of a partner. I educated myself. I had some capital, but then he has 20, 25 years of building experience, which I don't have. And so I partnered with him so that I could help learn with that. And anything I get into, I sit there and I try to learn every single little aspect about it. I get obsessed with like learning the intricacies of how something works. Because I'm pretty risk averse, and how I mitigate that risk is through education. And the more you understand something, I mean, with cars, I mean, you build cars. So if you didn't have that kind of education, you would be a lot more gingerly going in there. But I mean, like if you gave me a YouTube video and said, Steven, go try to figure this out, and then you had you over here, you're going to be a lot more confident in what you're doing when trying to build your car. And so, but just because you have so much experience and time and everything, and you've worked on a lot of different cars, I'm sure, learned a lot of different things work. And so for me, applying that to real estate, even if, ultimately I'm not going to be doing fix and flips or anything, I understand how that works. I can understand how single family home development works. And then that quickly, I just kind of use those as stepping stones. Got into, started exploring commercial because, so timeline wise, 2020, frankly, honestly, like I do attribute my success to some luck because what happened in 2021 and 22 to the real estate market, it exploded. And I started buying a lot of properties before that when I started getting into real estate and then developing on top of it. But I could have bought a piece of land in 2019 or 2020 and did nothing, not developed it, nothing. I could have just bought a piece of land and sat on it and then sold it for double in 2022, 2023.
Wow.
I could have literally doubled my money.
Wow.
Not doing anything.
Wow.
Now you factor in trying to capitalize on developing the property, building on the property and everything, and you can see there's the growth potential there. So I had a lot of quick growth potential very early on, very quickly, partially because of luck. Because I mean, I didn't spread COVID myself to make that happen, just to be clear. But
so just so we're clear, he did not spread the virus.
I did not spread the virus. It was not created by me. But
I think if he did, he'd have a lot more cooler cars.
Yeah, if I did. Yeah, honestly, if I had a crystal ball and knew this virus was coming,
and we'd be in Dubai.
We would be in Dubai doing this right now. I would have bought a lot more properties. That's my one regret, is not investing more. And so I had I've had a really good past several years. Central Texas too, real estate is one of the strongest. It's probably the strongest real estate market in the United States currently. Yeah. Austin, Texas was the fastest growing major city from 2021 and 2022. The next fastest growing city, not major, but city, wasn't Austin. It was Georgetown, 2023, 2024. And now this northwestern area.
The corridor, dude.
Leander, Georgetown, Liberty Hill. It is still currently the fastest growing city, this area in the United States.
So yeah, the road we came in on, there's a tollway that's linking up there. So all of that, he's DFW, sort of like Melissa, Anna, all that stuff. When it does not prosper, all that's what's happening out here.
So how much of that decision making is pure gut when you're buying a piece of empty land that's not been developed or has nothing around it? How much of that is gut and how much of that is research that you're doing?
I would say for me, and you could probably ask that question to 10 different people in my industry and get 10 different answers.
Yeah. Yep.
For me, again, I'm pretty low risk. I do have some gut feelings about, I feel like we have gut feelings about almost any purchase we do, right? But I would say it's more about numbers for me. I had to say to educate myself because I don't want to just rely on a gut feeling because, when you're wrong, it's costly. And so, no, honestly, mainly, I wouldn't say there's a lot of gut feeling involved. It's a numbers game. You make your money on the buy in real estate. If you buy wrong up front, you're going to have a hard time getting out of it.
Okay.
And so, man, I have a good team. I have put together a really good team around myself as far as agents, partners, civil engineers. I said like a Class A solid team that I feel very blessed and lucky to have around me. That that I can go to, and any numbers I need, anything I need help crunching on that is out of my comfort zone, out of my expertise, they can help me get that. And all of a sudden now I'm back to my numbers and I feel it can make me to where I feel really, really confident about anything I am purchasing. And I have never lost money on any real estate deal I've ever done.
So I'm going to ask you another question. Does that same never lost money situation follow to your cars?
That's another good question. Never lost money. No. Yes and no. And most people, especially so McLaren, has been known to have pretty hard depreciating assets.
Yes.
I have lost in McLaren alone probably around 400 grand.
Okay.
Over the 10 years I've owned. So cars are my main passion. Over the past 10 years, I've been able to really educate myself on the car market, what cars do well, what cars don't do well, why some cars don't depreciate as much, why some cars do. I majored in economics at the end of the day, so this is actually a good topic for me because I have delved and learned into the car markets and kind of, if you want to, if you don't care about losing money, I can tell you some great cars to get into. That are great things about. But if you want to get into save some cars and not lose money or even appreciate, it's taken me about 10 years to get that level of education where I can confidently kind of point people in a direction. And I do honestly a lot of, it's not business, but consulting for friends, family, and everything on car purchases because I lost a lot of money. That being said, if you look at all the money I have lost compared to my car collection now and the cars that have appreciated, I have cars that have appreciated in here. I am actually in the green.
So I do a little bit of like in my own mind analysis on personalities and people who purchase and own specific cars.
Okay.
And I'm seeing a pattern with you.
Wait, is this something that we've talked about? Because
No.
this is new, isn't it?
Yeah, no, this isn't. Like I
know
why.
this was a psych evaluation.
Dude.
This guy's been watching me this whole time. He doesn't,
Well,
doesn't
I'm
even care about the
understanding.
questions.
I'm understanding like thought processes.
Oh shit, he's been
right?
into Chat GPT again.
So, so the thought process and like how you analyze your business day to day reflects a lot on the type of cars that you chase.
Ooh.
Sure.
Because you're very analytical in how things are happening with your business as far as moves, things, why you're doing, developing, building, stuff like that. That's why you choose more the McLaren than the immediate Ferraris.
Yeah, I
Because
could see some parallels.
The McLaren is very hands-on, built by a small group of people that were about the car and the experience and not the finest qualities of leather in your Ferrari supercar.
Yeah, I mean Ferrari. If you want the best leather, you go get your Ferrari.
Right. So
McLaren's not gonna. It's not gonna have the Chanel leather and all the.
it's pretty cool because
That's a good link up, Chris.
it's a lot of it plays out that
does.
way.
Small team. He said he had a small team around him that he felt really confident. So the small
But
team
there's
built the cars.
he touched a lot on lateral, or maybe not lateral moves, but moves that people make. So why does Porsche go to a McLaren, and why does McLaren go to a Porsche? Right. So it's the way that these guys kind of a pecking order of things that do. Why does a Corvette guy secretly want a Viper?
Oh, because a Viper's a sexy beast, dude.
Right.
And they see him breaking records on the roll racing.
But there's like there's so many Corvettes, but fewer Vipers.
Yeah.
And so like you can get a Lamborghini guy, which they don't always like Ferraris.
No, those are two different people, man.
I'll tell you firsthand. I've been to events at both.
Yeah, they're two different people. So it's like Hellcat owners and Corvette owners.
Yeah.
Right? They've got the Corvette shirts, the New Balances and everything else, and here we are wreaking
Running
havoc,
over people.
doing burnouts and all kinds of stupid shit in the streets, right?
The stereotypes do fit to a degree, and
So it's cool how everybody pans out and things like that. And I just found it interesting that what you were talking about business was a lot of how you were talking your approach on cars and purchasing cars and things like that.
I guess I can see your parallel to that. My business the numbers have gotten bigger. I now do commercial. Commercial is now my bread and butter.
Nice.
And now also I'm looking at cars that are a lot more expensive than what I was. So I've grown on both parallels. And for different reasons. And now whenever I look at cars, I tend to gravitate away from cars I'm going to lose a lot of money on, and gravitate towards certain cars that are going to potentially either hold value or appreciate. And the P1 has appreciated about 70% since I've owned it.
Wow.
The Aventador is up about 25%.
Takes a
The
bit.
Lamborghini.
Yeah.
The RX-7's up a bit. My 997 GT2 is up arguably about 5%. I've only owned that since like March of last year.
Because it's still a 3-pedal car.
Yep, exactly. It's a 6-speed manual transmission. That's a 2008 997.1 GT2. They only made roughly 1250 worldwide, and only about 250 came to the U.S.
Yeah.
Out of that, they only made 18 in speed yellow. I'm going to sound like a Corvette guy here with her. And then, but anyway, and you go walk around that car and it's immaculate. But that car,
there's some bugs on the hood though.
yeah,
He drives them though.
I drive the
That's
hell
the
out of these
thing.
cars.
That's the thing. He drives them. It doesn't just sit up.
All of these cars are driven, rallied. They're all full PPF'd.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
now, you know what? Now they're PPF'd. I drive the hell out. We drive. I mean, my wife takes our kid to school, and I took Olivia to her daddy-daughter dance for pre-K in the event award last year.
Nice.
So the car seat.
Yeah.
Lexi, my wife, she has a matching car seat coming for our new 765 McLaren to take her to. So yeah, we
That's awesome.
drive them. But yeah, now I've gotten to a point where I with cars now, the hobby-wise, I'm able to get into cars and feel good about it and spending a lot of money compared to what I did before, because I know, even though I don't plan to sell them, they're assets still as part of. I can kind of view them like the P1. So it's part of my portfolio at the end of the day, especially with the amount I'm spending on.
It's what drives you. So I figured out the formula. So you knew that making the kind of money in cars you needed to make to own cars like that probably wasn't possible. So you had to go and find something that you were relatable to.
For sure.
And then
I would say, as a whole, yeah, I'd say you're right. I am very passionate about real estate,
so
but
it's just
cars are what big motivation for me in real estate.
So, and I think a lot of people see, and as you know, and there's people out there that financially, it's like, for me, look, we have a certain amount of time on earth, and whatever fuels you and whatever gets you motivated to make changes, like for your family on earth, for whatever you're doing in business, if it's because you own a bunch of cool cars, that's what drives you.
Yeah.
If it's because you own a bunch of cool planes, that's what drives you. If it's because you own a bunch of cool jewelry, great. That's what drives
exactly. You know, I as I said, my family was my number one especially ever since my daughter was born. But we're talking about planes, watches, cars. You know, it's cars for me. And I mean, I don't care what you're spending your money on. If it's motivating you, if it's helping you push yourself to the best you can possibly be. I really think it's a really good. I spend a lot of money on cars, probably more than I should, but the point being is that I really think it is a good positive thing, because it makes us all want to work harder. And then everyone around you, they see you working hard. You bring up everyone else around you.
You do, man. And it's so noticeable. And you talk about the car community like that, so eloquently.
As a whole, I love the car community so much, because I can go and talk to someone at a car show that has a Miata. I can go talk to someone who has a LaFerrari. But at the end of the day, we are connected with a same passion level for cars.
Right.
That's part of what makes cars really unique. I do want to touch on this. Part of why, another reason I love cars, forget about the products themselves for a second.
Yeah.
Think about other hobbies and passions where you can connect people on all different class levels, whether it's you're a 13-year-old photographer who, doesn't have a car yet, obviously, and can't even drive, or people who have, $50 million car collection, and now they have something in common.
Right.
Where can you find?
Yeah.
Think of another hobby where you can find that.
Yeah.
You can have ties to somebody, like you said, that has $50 million worth of collector cars, right? And you might go out and I might buy a Demon 170, and that might be in your collection, and we can talk about that Demon 170 in depth.
Or even if not, I don't have a Colorado in my collection, but the reason why we're sitting here is because I started talking to you about your damn Colorado, right?
No, that was the first thing that he said. He was like, I like that truck, dude. And I was like, thanks.
That's what we talked about. We wanted to figure out.
Fuck the pond, dude. I was like,
we met on a business level, and we didn't just go up and be like, hey, I'm Steven, I like cars. And you're like, hey, I'm Jay, I like ponds and cars too. And that's not how it went. We started talking about your truck, started talking about my truck, and then we realized, we like cars.
and he was like, the suspension on the Colorado is superior to my Raptor R. And I was like, it is.
That's exactly how that's.
That's exactly it.
And the TRX, everything.
I was like, yeah, no, I'll outrun it too in a quarter mile. And you want to test? He was like, nah, I don't want to do that.
I don't want that smoke today.
That's awesome.
But no, I've had that internal conversation, and it was so cool. I was like, what makes us so nuts, right? Because at the end of the day, really, like you see them at the grocery store. You've been walking back, you're in one of your rides. I get it all the time. If I'm in the Colorado, or if I'm in the Cadillac, or if I'm in the whatever, I get, you're going back, and they're like, nice ride. You instantly know, right?
Yeah. Or our kid comes by and, pictures of it
and that's the
everything.
other thing that I just started noticing, and it sounds bad, is like, over the last 5 years are the kids.
Yes. And I was that kid at once. And so I love talking.
I've got one, dude.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because he is into cars.
Sure.
You've said a lot of very important pieces of advice that already. And typically when we end this pod's more about inspiring our next generation of people, right? So whether it's a piece of advice or a tip for someone who's getting ready to come into what you are now, right? The real estate and purchasing homes, things like that. What's some advice you would give them? And what is a piece of advice of anybody in general that is trying to be an entrepreneur or trying to go down this road of being self-employed?
Sure.
Would you give them?
So going back to what I stated earlier, my number one thing from more of I want to say generic, but a macro perspective is, and besides just trying to say something generic like work hard.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to sit there and be like, work hard, grind. I'm not going to sit here and sit there and talk. That's all important, but it's not helpful because you already see that 100. Your parents tell you that, your grandma tells you that, whatever. But it really is important, as I said, I cannot stress this enough, to find something you are passionate about, but also has unlimited growth potential. That's one thing. The second thing is, and I'm not just talking formal education, I'm talking education informal, from wherever. Educate yourself as much as you possibly can at anything you do. Like, learn the ins and out of it. If you sit there, and there's a book I really like. If you ask me for a third book, this is the one I was going to say.
I didn't.
You didn't. So I said, if you did, so get to read it. It's another book my father actually recommended. It's from Tillman Fertitta. Do you know who that is?
Who?
Tillman Fertitta.
No.
He's out of Houston. He owns the Post Oak Hotel, and he owns like 100 different kinds of restaurant chains. You eat there probably every Friday. But anyways, billionaire. Yeah. And he wrote a book called Shut Up and Listen. And it is one of the best business books I've ever written. But he talks about something, a rule called like the extra 5%. And that really stuck with me because it made a difference. So there's a chapter on it, but pretty much the idea of it being is, I think he gave an example of him like going up to one of his restaurants and there being a light bulb out on the outside, just one light bulb. Most people would just walk by. The rest of the lights are still on. It's not a big difference, but stopping and going an extra 5% more where you're going to stop and change that light bulb and all your lights are on. Someone might notice that. You notice that. It's not just as much for other people as it is a work ethic for you. So going an extra 5 or 10% beyond what 99% of the population will put you in a much smaller, will put you in that top 1%. It really is only about 10-20% difference because a lot of people work hard at what they do. And I don't want to discount that. But trying to figure out how to give an extra 5 or 10%, go a little bit further from everyone else, is how you separate yourself.
Gotcha. And
if you don't separate yourself, then you are not going to get to a point in life where, if we're going back to cars, I've been able to separate myself from, these are special cars back here.
Yeah.
And I've been able to find out how to separate myself from the majority in order to own the minority.
Yeah.
And so just going and doing a little bit more, the point being 5%, 10%, whatever, don't fixate on the number. The point being is going a little bit further can make a huge difference. And so I'm trying to figure out, elaborating on that. People, working hard is really important, but not just, you can go sit there and work hard at your job at Applebee's, 5-7 days a week, whatever, do your absolute best as a waiter and everything, and you really work, but you're not being very effective with your time as far as growth potential and everything goes. Everyone's heard work smart, but works harder, but work smarter, but not harder.
Yeah.
And that really does go a long way. Is you need to work hard, but you need to be smart about how you're working. Going and working really, really, really hard at Applebee's, or I'm not knocking Applebee's. I'm just at whatever your entry level job is. It's very important. But if you're not figuring out how the growth potential, all right, now how do I become a manager? And now that I'm a manager here, now how can I get to a higher end restaurant? Work at a higher end restaurant, because you need to build your resume if you're going to do that ladder. And then and just figuring out always what's next. Another good piece of advice is that I've kind of figured out myself, or two things. Is you need to, who you surround yourself with makes a world of a difference, and I cannot stress that enough. Everyone's heard, I want to say everyone, but everyone's heard like you're pretty much the sum of the five people you're the sum of the five people you hang around most with. And for the most part, that is very much so true. If you are at the top of your friend game as far as financially or emotionally, whatever, then they're just going to lower that average. So you need to put yourself around people that you want to be like. And that's what I have done personally. I've been around people that really motivate me, and I've been brought up because of that, because the conversations are different.
Yeah. And
if you sit there and hang around, your best friends, or again, I'm not hating on Applebee's. It's just, it's just,
Jeez, thank God they're not
around,
sponsoring us all the free food that we want.
But if your best friends are like the 5 servers there, and they haven't done anything, what's going to motivate you to keep going? Because you're like, this is normal,
right?
Yeah,
this is what my friend Jim is doing. This is what this is what they're doing. So like, this is what life is like. But now, if you go and put yourself around people that are really pushing themselves or have made themselves, who are really inspires you, you just are seeing what they're doing differently. They're eating at different places, they're shopping at different places, they're buying different things, and it's a different level of conversation. I could have a whole podcast on this. I'm trying to keep it short. Yeah. But putting yourself around good people makes a really big difference in your outcome. And then another thing is, I like to say, always be satisfied what you have. Or sorry, I messed that up. Always be happy with what you have. It's very important, but never be satisfied. What I mean by that is satisfaction. Once you get to a point of satisfaction where you are just comfortable, you don't grow when you're comfortable. Your bills are covered. You're happy because you're able to send the kids where you want to go to school. You're driving what you want to drive and everything. And some people are, if they're comfortable and content with that, I'm not knocking that. Yeah. That's all, and that's great for them. That's just not who I am. So for me, that's what I'm always I'm so happy with my family. Yeah. With what I've been, and I'm blessed. I've been very blessed with the opportunities I've had in life and everything. But while I'm very happy, I am not satisfied in the fact that I know I can do more, and I continue to put myself in uncomfortable situations and do uncomfortable, whether it's going up and purchasing a slightly more expensive property than I'm used to. It takes me a little bit outside that comfort zone, but then I realize I did it. And now I am like, oh, you know what? I understand that. I did it. I was able to do it. And now then it changes your perspective. Like, well, this was the most monumental task I could possibly do. Now I did it. What's next?
Gotcha.
And so does that all make sense?
Yeah. Yes. But to some viewers it doesn't. We get a lot of questions. It's like, what is it that keeps you going? And it's what is next. And you keep saying it, and it's the same thing that we hear from most of our guests. Sure. Is what is next. Some people don't have a what is next. And if you're looking to move into a different era into your life, what is
exactly
next is
again
important.
People are content with their job, whatever. I'm not knocking those people. Nope. This is advice for the people that are not content. They want to keep want to keep climbing.
If you want to light the fire of the want, you got to get uncomfortable.
And you know what? And at the end of the day, we need people who are serving Applebee's. We need people who are flipping burgers at McDonald's. We need all those people.
The stable people, the same people.
We need that. And if they're content and happy with that, and some people just don't feel comfortable getting out. And you know what? I'm all for that. Someone still needs to have all these, do all this stuff in life.
Right. But there's
this message is for the people that might be there or stuck and are looking to how they can continue to grow in life, and just kind of look at you just kind of take life in steps, but then just keep climbing those steps. What's next? And so going back to what I said earlier as far as like education, you're uncomfortable taking that next step because you're nervous. You're not sure if you're going to make a bad investment. What if you get fired? What if, I lose out on my current? Well, educate yourself as much as possible. And then education is how you get more comfortable going to the next step. If you sat there and you educated yourself through building cars, sleeping on the shop floor and everything, you are in the weeds doing that. And so just being around all that, educated to where you're really confident enough to be able to start your own shop and do that for other people.
Yeah.
Whereas I want to be confident at all, starting my own shop and doing work for other people. You would never want to go do business with me.
Yeah.
But that's the point I'm trying to make is I'm not just talking formal education. I'm just talking, you need to know the ins and out of your business. You need to know the ins and out of what you want to do. And that's how you get comfortable in taking the next step. You want to be a real estate investor? Then you don't need a business degree. Go get your license, go become an agent, go to get on Facebook, look up social media gatherings. There's a lot of different things. Get on there's a good website called Bigger Pockets. It's a big real estate community. We have we have more tools than ever these days via YouTube and Google and everything. Yeah. You can educate yourself on anything you want. Yes. You can get the same. I've educated myself a ton in this space, and all of it has been real estate. And I'm not talking about economics. I've been self-taught. I've gone on YouTube. I've read books. I have put myself around, mentors and people that know this space. And I have gone it to a point that if you told me in 2019, when I was stepping out of my father's company, which was very uncomfortable to do that. That was a very comfortable position to be in.
Yeah.
Stepping outside of that. And now I'm going to start something. I like real estate, but I don't know much about it. So I wasn't comfortable. My first flip I did, I had a bigger budget than I could have gone more expensive, but my first flip house I bought it for $190,000. And that's what I was comfortable with.
Yeah.
And after I did it, I made $70,000 on that one. That was my first one I ever did. And all of a sudden I was just wow,
what if I'd have done double?
Yeah, what if I had done double? Now I just as I said, I'm an investor, so I don't do as many fix and flips these days. I focus on commercial. But if a good opportunity comes my way, I will. So just 2 weeks ago, I went and put in an offer, still a pending offer, for $1 million fix and flip house. The house I put in, my offer was $1 million.
Wow.
The numbers are going to be big and everything, but that would have been monumentally scary back in 2019 if it came out. Granted, yeah, right. So just different perspective. I was so scared of all my $190,000 little fix and flip.
I know, man.
And now I'm sitting here and in 24 hours without even thinking, I went and sold the property. I'm all right, here's my offer, here's $1 million. All this being said, you still need to be humble.
Yes.
And you still need to, you can't, it's very important to be confident, but there's a fine line between confidence and overconfidence. And that's where people get in trouble is when they get.
Yeah, there's a good book. It's called Economics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Economics? I've heard of that book.
It's actually, and it's boring.
I've never read it.
All the way up to 151, page 151, you can stop reading it.
Yep.
But everything up to that point, especially for males, and I'll say it, incredible, because we lead with a lot of ego anyways.
Yes.
And I've found it, and it was a female that gave it to me. Actually, no, it was Baker Johnson. He had a similar issue, and he was like, man, your passion sometimes feels like ego. And I was like, interesting. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's boring after 151.
But so the point being is, if someone wants to get into real estate, flipping or whatever, while I, did 190,000 first flip, $1 million now, I'm not saying go do that $1 million flip right off the bat. That might be overconfident. The reason I'm comfortable with that today is I know my numbers and I know I can make money. I know exactly where I need to be, and that was my dollar amount I needed to be to make money.
That's cool.
And so, but if you don't have that knowledge I have today, if you're just like, you know what, I heard this podcast, Steven said grow. I'm just going to go instead and just jump straight off the deep end. You can spend $1 million on a property and it actually be a terrible investment. And going back to what I said, earlier in this podcast, where for real estate, you make your money on your buy. Mm-hmm. You don't make it. When you sell it, it doesn't matter what you sell it for if you made a bad offer in the beginning. So
it's exactly right, man. There's plenty of there's plenty of people that are holding on to land.
Exactly. So I'll buy pretty much any real estate.
There's no reason
investment, but it's all a numbers game. I'm not going to buy it for any. That's the difference. I'll buy any real estate, but I won't buy it for any amount.
One thing is true between all of it is there's no emotional attachment. To the real estate.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing you can't.
Do you feel like that about cars? You have zero emotional.
Everything's for sale.
Okay.
So
everything is for
disagreeing
sale.
a little bit. It's not disagreeing, but that's why I'm not in the car business, because cars are a little bit more emotional.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that, because I've thought about getting, I love cars so much, into the business and stuff, but I've learned that it might not fare well for me, or, you know.
What's the last one you sold?
I don't think I've ever sold a car.
He's always
Boom.
traded them all. Trading up.
Not even like a little farm or ranch truck.
Oh, you know what? I take it back.
A Colorado.
I gave my first truck. I bought my first truck when I was 15 or 16. I bought it for $10,200. At 167,000 miles, F-150 Triton engine. I gave that to my brother. I guess that's not really a sell though. My brother and my stepbrother, I gave it to him. I sold a Jeep at one point, but I instantly took that money and bought something else. So I don't know if you count that. So
1031 exchange.
I sold my Jeep and then went and bought a G-Wagon. So it's not, I didn't trade it, but I did technically sell it. But
I think it counts.
So yeah, as far as actually just selling and not doing anything with it, no, there's not really any vehicles. It's always been traded towards something. Or if I did sell it, that money went directly towards, or like I sold my Gen 2 Raptor instead of trading it because I got $5,000 more selling it myself, and then but I took that money instantly and put it towards my Raptor R. So I have trouble selling.
So no inventory decreases lately.
No, there's no been. I traded my McLaren 620R I had in here just left on Saturday for my new 765 LT Spider.
Gotcha. So your inventory level stays about
it goes up. Yeah, Heck, when my Mustang GTD comes in, that'll be my 10th car, and I probably won't have less than that.
Well, dude, thank you for the pod. That was awesome, man.
Man, this was a fun time. This is my first podcast. But,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It was a good time. Yeah.
And that's a wrap. That's going to be the man, the myth, the legend,
Supercar Steven.
Steven Wolf with Wolf Real Estate. And on Instagram, you can find him.
Supercar Steven
Yes, sir.
with the badass McLaren guy.
Formerly known as McLaren and Me.
Formerly known as McLaren. For the OGs with
That's
all
awesome.
200 followers.
But a great individual, great conversation, and it was an honor to have you take a little bit
likewise.
of
I said
time.
this was fun. My first podcast I've done. I've been invited to a couple of them here and on, off and on, but I really like Jay's color, honestly, and so
Jake's a badass.
Well, thank you for choosing us to be your first podcast. Hopefully, this is the next step for maybe
for
others.
sure. I can talk about cars for.
It turns out there's a lot of people that their first podcast is this. They should have been on a podcast a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like Robin Roberts' first podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, dude. All right.
So
man.
if you guys want to hear more about what we were talking about here or any future content, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow us all over the pages and any social webs, Spotify, YouTube,
We're trying
all
to
of that.
grow. We're
Trying
trying
to get it
grow.
all going. So make sure that you follow us, because we want to know what drives your story. So you can make sure and follow us at the Deep Stage Podcast. And let's see who we're going to have next.
Who's it
Right?
going to be?
All right. Or is it just going to be me and Jay in the back of the Colorado?
Because we could we could do that. We could do that, man. We could do that.
Yeah.
All right. That's a wrap.